Underground bunker. What a day. Day 5 of the Danny Masterson trial and the first day of opening statements and witnesses. So much happened today. I'm not going to remember it all. What a blur. The first thing I want to do is apologize to you for all the emails. I know there are some of you who signed up for the Substack that are not going to be thrilled that I sent you like 5 emails today, clogging up your inbox. But I just decided, there's 20 other reporters in the courtroom. They're all going to have good stories. The only way I can be useful and do something a little different is just to write everything down and send it immediately. So later tonight, tomorrow morning, there'll be some wonderfully written stories by the other journalists. I encourage you to read them. But you're getting the raw news right now from me, and I hope that's useful to you all. I do my best to give you a sense of what exactly went down. So the morning began with Judge Olmedo rapidly going through jury selection. Probably, I guess, the most interesting part of that, and I wrote about it, was that at some point, Karen Goldstein, one of Danny Masterson's attorneys, just reeled off a whole list of numbers and said they want them all out because the jurors had mentioned that they had seen a documentary about Scientology, or specifically seen Leah Remini's documentary. And, they made the point that one of the victims, Jane Doe 3, actually appeared in the finale season episode of Leah's show. So Karen Goldstein described the situation where Jane Doe 3 gets on the witness stand, and the juror suddenly goes, wait a minute, I've seen her on TV, and if this is a problem, it's prejudicial. Well, Judge Olmedo, remember, as this has come up before, Judge Olmedo handles some very serious criminal cases in her courtroom. And she's made this point before that, we've had motorcycle gang members tried for murder here. And of course the jurors have seen things about gang members and crime and police. And you just have to, if a juror says they can be fair and impartial, you have to rely on them. And you can't eliminate every single person that's seen something negative about a motorcycle gang. So she says that's an analogy that fits here as well. We can't get rid of people just because they say they have a vague familiarity with Scientology that they got from watching an episode of Leah Remini's show. And she also made the point that even if they've seen an episode, doesn't necessarily mean they saw the one with Jane Doe 3 in it. So after she told them that just wasn't going to happen, it went very, very quickly, and they got 12 jurors and 7 alternates. And at that point then, the rest of the press corps came in and filled up the gallery, and also Danny was able to bring in more of his family, and they kind of switched around. I saw somebody commented that I said something about Bijou being in the second row. Well, she was in the first row later, so don't read too much into that, please. But Bijou was there, Danny's brother Christopher, Danny's brother Jordan, who shaved his mustache. What a mistake! He had such a cool mustache last week. But anyway, I'm sorry. Jordan was there. Alana Masterson was there as well. Also, in the afternoon, Billy Baldwin showed up. Remember, we had wondered about this because Bijou is her sister is China Phillips. China is married to Billy Baldwin, and 2 years ago, when Danny made his first court appearance, Billy was in the entourage, and we wondered if he would come to this. So yes, he did show up for the afternoon. I think Carol, Danny's mother, was also in the family group. There were a couple other people I did not recognize. One young man who had a mask on, so it was tough to decide. I'm going to keep working on that. But anyway, they were all there making a strong show. I was asked by one journalist that I think that gave them an advantage with the jury, and I have to say, these jurors seem like nice folks, but they just don't seem to have a lot of knowledge of either Scientology or Danny Masterson. At least they didn't admit to any in the jury selection process. I don't think they are starstruck at all. I don't think they recognize anybody in the family box. I may be wrong about that. But no question, the Masterson family is making a show. So then the opening statements came, and Deputy DA Reinhold Mueller was he was understated. He did not have a very loud voice, but he was speaking directly to the jury, so I'm sure they heard him fine. And he went through each of the cases in detail. You saw the detail if you saw my piece today. I did my best to get down virtually everything he said. I asked another journalist what he thought about it, and he said that he was impressed that Mueller had an understated style, but he seemed to be putting out a net and then squeezing it tighter. That was the description that this other journalist gave me. He was very impressed. He felt that it was the web of facts that Mueller was putting out that was more impressive than his style. Because then, of course, it was Cohen's turn. It was just before lunch. Judge Olmedo wanted to go to lunch. Cohen said, please, can I at least have 10 minutes? He didn't want the jurors to spend lunchtime thinking about the hour and a half or so that Mueller had said all these terrible things that they're accusing Danny Masterson of. And so Cohen started, of course, and he's the opposite. He's really ebullient and loud and dramatic. And he's staying away from Scientology, unlike Tom Mesereau. But like Tom Mesereau, his basic story is the same. These women are lying because they've changed their story over time. They've compared their notes too much, and they are relying on, it sounds like they're going to rely on this LAPD detective Reyes. Now, if you remember my very first story about this whole thing on March 3rd, 2017, when I broke the story that Danny Masterson was being investigated, a large part of that story was how unhappy these women were with how badly the LAPD was handling the investigation. That was Detective Reyes, Detective Esther Reyes. She was the one they were so upset with because of the way she was talking to them. She gave them a burner phone that was already a known cop phone. Just all these bizarre problems with the investigation. They had written to the chief and got her replaced. And now the defense is saying, hey, Detective Reyes thinks this was a terrible investigation. So it's going to be interesting to me to see her testimony and what they do with it. But anyway, the defense, we took a lunch break. We came back. Cohen kept continuing. And again, he was basically setting up the idea that these women, their stories have changed over time. They've colluded with each other. They've talked to each other when they shouldn't have. And we'll see. I mean, that might be a very effective defense. I don't know. So then it was only about 2:30 or something. And so the judge said, bring on the first witness. I mean, we not only got a jury seated today and opening statements done, we even got the first witness. It was Jane Doe 1. And I saw her testify last year, same court, in the preliminary hearing. She's cool and she's calm. She tells them, I think she's, she says some things like, for example, at one point, Mueller is saying to her, so after this sexual thing happened with Danny, and they went over a previous incident first. What happened? She said, I woke up, I realized I was naked and Danny messes the bed, and I went, oh. And the way she said it was very authentic. I just thought it was very authentic, and I thought it was the kind of thing the jury could relate to. She got really emotional at one point when she described him flipping her over and attacking her anally. And remember, this initial incident he's not being charged for, and the defense is going to try to rip her apart, saying she previously thought of this as a consensual situation and later thought of it as a rape. So they're going to rake her over the coals over that. But today, she was describing the pain she went through, and she got emotional. So I thought she seemed very genuine. But it was, I don't know. She didn't even get done with the first incident. I mean, they ended the day, and she's barely getting through the first incident. So I imagine she's going to be on direct all day tomorrow. But obviously, the big news is right before the afternoon break, Judge Olmedo was hot. She was really unhappy with both sides. She didn't like that Mueller was bringing in so much Scientology so early and quickly with Jane Doe 1. And she had kept admonishing the jury, saying we're not talking about Scientology as to the truth of these allegations, but simply as for state of mind. She had to keep saying that. Cohen kept objecting. She got really upset with both sides. After the end of the afternoon session, she let everyone go a little bit early because she knew she was going to have to talk to them about it some more. And at this point, Cohen literally asked for a mistrial because Jane Doe 1, Underground Bunker people are going to love this, Jane Doe 1 had used the word wogs. Now, Philip Cohen is acting like he's never heard that word before. But I can tell you, it came up in the preliminary hearing. You may remember that Judge Olmedo herself at one point said, are wogs like muggles? Do you remember? So that's been in the case before. I don't know, Cohen's acting like this is some bizarre new thing that should be worthy of a mistrial. But he also didn't like that she was describing how tight all these friends were. Lisa Marie Presley, Danny Masterson, Luke Watson, Bree Schaefer. And she said, and Mueller asked her, why was everyone Scientologist? And she said, because we had a no fraternization with the enemy policy. This really got Cohen worked up. He felt that this was hugely prejudicial to the defense. And he said that's never come up before in preliminary hearing, which he has a point there. And so Judge Olmedo let him talk about it for a while, and he said, here we are on the first day, and you're saying that Scientologists can't tolerate non-Scientologists. And Judge Olmedo said to him, it's not the only religion that feels that way. Oh! Bam! So she denied his mistrial. She is allowing him to write up an admonition she will say to the jury, again, about how this is not, Scientology is not on trial. These things are not being introduced to say that this is how Scientology is. It's just, this is what Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 and Jane Doe 3 believed to help explain their behavior. So we'll see. So much action. First real day. Amazing. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm sorry if you feel like you're getting too many emails. I'm trying to put you in the room with me. It's exciting. So Jeffrey Augustine's here to drive me back. Thank you, Jeffrey. I won't have to take the subway today. We are at the Clara Shortridge Fultz Criminal Justice Center in Los Angeles, and I will see you tomorrow. This is your proprietor signing off.